This is All Things Ansys, a podcast from the technical support staff at PADT. Episode 78, a quick look at what is new with Ansys OptiSLang at 2020 R2 and a review of Ansys news for 2020. Hi there, I'm Eric Miller, and welcome to our podcast. It's December 10th, 2020. This will be our last podcast for the year and a chance for us to look back on what happened in the world of Ansys during 2020. It's our 78th podcast. We started the year, at least podcast-wise, on January 13th with a sharing of my interview with Robin Knowles about PADT's history with CFD. It was a guest interview, basically. That was episode 54. So if you include this episode, we've done 27 over the year. Not bad for the middle of a pandemic, keeping up on those every other week episodes. Before we get into discussing what happened in 2020, we want to do a little bit of an interview, catching up on the OptiSLang product. We're going to speak with Josh Stout, who's one of our applications here at PADT and our expert in OptiSLang. And we're going to talk about what's new in 2020 R2. Hey there, I want to welcome everybody to another discussion about an Ansys product in the 2020 R2 release. I'm joined by Josh Stout to talk about OptiSLang. And actually, before we get started, first of all, hi, Josh.
Hey, Eric.
Am I pronouncing it right? I can't. Is it? It's OptiSLang. That's how they say it.
Yeah, that's the way I've always heard it. Some people say OptiSLang, but I think OptiSLang makes the most sense personally.
Yeah, I like it better. Like everything else we've been talking about recently, it's a new release, 2020 R2. Here we are in February. It's been out for a little while, and you've been taking a look at what's new. So I'd like to start with what's your favorite thing about 2020 R2 with OptiSLang?
I'd say probably one of the biggest sections of updates this time around is just algorithm development. So there are a few new algorithms for certain applications. There's a new one that's a nature-inspired optimizer. It's still classified as beta, but anytime we can bring these nature-inspired things in, they're always kind of exciting. There's a evolutionary algorithm and a particle swarm optimizer and a stochastic design improvement algorithm. So
that's very cool. Have you shared that with Alex Christian on our team?
I haven't really talked to anybody about it yet.
Yeah, you should make sure Alex knows about it. So the reason why I asked that question for those that are listening is that PADT has an STTR research grant with NASA that we're doing with ASU, the university here in Phoenix, and that it's really focused on these biological methodologies and mimicking biology with optimization. So I think they'll be very interested to see what's there and maybe even integrate that into the work they're doing if they haven't already. So that's pretty cool. I'm a big fan of it. I always felt like genetic algorithms kind of got dropped too early from the option table back when we first started doing it because the computations, it just took too many iterations to get to an answer. Mm-hmm. But now with better computational capabilities, we can run those genetic dead ends and come back and go on another branch, and it's pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, and certainly a lot of these things depend on the application we're using as well. So if it is something that we can iterate rapidly like that, then that's certainly a good option.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Cool. So what else? I think there's quite a bit in not productivity, but speed, right? That's been a big focus of this release.
Yeah. So there's a particular improvement for large data sets. If you're reading in data files that have a large number of inputs and outputs, they've seen some pretty tremendous speed ups there. So, before, one of their example test cases was 6,000 data points with 7 inputs and 5 outputs. Previously, it took 10 minutes to load that file, and now it takes 3 seconds. So, a couple orders of magnitude speed up there.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, not everybody's using these things, but for the people who are, that's a huge quality of life improvement. So it's really great to see.
Yeah. Yeah. That can make a big difference when you're doing, over and over again, running these things over and over again. So big change.
Yeah.
What else have you seen that is worth sharing with our listeners?
They continue to evolve on their integrations with other services. So there's some things like ACT extensions for Workbench and ADT that are both being worked on. That just kind of streamlines the workflow from one program to the other. There are also some design point service integrations that are being evolved on continuously. There's a whole SDK section now for web app connectivity. So if you were to, say, run OptiSLang on your server at work, let it run over the weekend or for a week or more, you can connect it to basically a web portal if you have that set up, and you can log in remotely and just see the progress. So things like that are really nice for these more web-based applications. And the rest of the things are, I would say, fairly small improvements. Lots of little licensing things that they're working on. A lot of documentation that's very helpful. They're trying to integrate this with the entire Ansys ecosystem as far as documentation goes. So all of the help documents are available online now, as well as within OptiSLang itself, which is very convenient.
Mm-hmm. That is very convenient. I like the way Ansys does integration of new products in the family. They don't rush it, and it's an evolutionary process. But it's always good to see when they take some big steps forward. And surprisingly enough, integrating the help and consolidating the help, making the help consistent is one of my big pet peeves. I don't know. I always get confused when something pops up that looks a little bit different or is in a different place. So, it actually makes a big difference for me. Any other? How is the integration with the Ansys suite coming along? I mean, you can of course use it if you're willing to write some scripts with almost anything. But did they make any new hooks that make it easier?
I think as far as the OptiSLang program itself goes, it's pretty much the same as it's been. I mean, it works quite well, I would say. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Really, the main thing that they're working on right now with the ACT extensions on the ADT and Workbench is basically you would start within either one of those programs, and then you launch the ACT, and it would then port all of that information over to OptiSLang for you. Nice. So it just removes some of the program calls that you would need otherwise.
That's nice. That is nice. It's handy.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, anything else worth sharing? It's a fairly simple, at least to the user, update this time around.
Yeah, not too bad. I think the last thing that I might mention is that there is a deep learning extension that was just released this version. Okay. So that is something that doesn't come with OptiSLang on its own. I mean, it's supported license-wise, but you need to go to the Ansys App Store to download it.
Okay.
But that is sort of a niche application for very large systems, lots of inputs, outputs. But if you need it, you need it pretty much. Right. So it's nice to have that option there.
So make sure I understand what they mean by deep learning, because it can mean different things. Well, it should mean only one thing, but often people use it as a buzzword. So this allows you to actually train an algorithm that allows you to run many runs and develop basically a fit to the data. Is that a good way to describe it?
Yeah, I would say that's exactly it. So OptiSLang has had previous support for like custom algorithms for both the choosing which data points you're going to test, or actually building the fitted model for the model of optimal prognosis. Mm-hmm. So this deep learning extension is basically another way to build that model of optimal prognosis.
Okay. So it learns as it goes. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Very cool. I mean, we're seeing more AI and machine learning, and I think it's something to note. The other thing that we're starting to see more and more of is people building up those data sets using simulation. So a tool like OptiSLang can really be helpful in doing that, I think, to explore the design space and not just optimize your design, but learn as you go. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. The future is now. I always joke, I want my flying car. You promised me a flying car when I was a kid, and I still don't have it, but we're getting close. And tools like this are getting us there. Cool. Cool. Well, I always appreciate your time. You always educate me on these tools, and we look forward to seeing what comes in the next release, 2021. Hard to believe it's almost here. When is 2021? The Ansys 2021 coming out? Do you know yet?
I don't actually know. It seems like they're not willing to tell us until it's almost there. But
well, and I get that, because if you tell people and then it's late, then they get mad. So I think when they know when it's going to be ready, they'll let us know. So I'm sure it'll be sometime in the first half of the year, and we'll be back talking about this topic and many others as things get going. So I appreciate your time, Josh, and have a good rest of the week.
Thank you. You too. Always happy to discuss.
Thanks. So thank you very much, Josh, for that. If you want to learn more about OptiSLang, check out episode number 66. That's when we went much more in depth into it. And as always, you can go to the Ansys website and get more information there. Also, his latest webinar on the topic is available on brighttalk.com. Search for OptiSLang. We're the only people talking about it on BrightTalk. You can search for PADT and see all of our webinars as well. It'll be live on the 16th, or you can listen to the recording. So sign up and listen live, or the recording later. That's a good holiday break activity while you're doing chores or something. And it's time for a commercial. What can I say? It's been a challenging year, but it's also been a year where PDT and our employees have been able to truly show why we are different. Through all of the strangeness, our company has actually grown, especially in the simulation part of our business. We've added dozens of new Ansys customers from Texas to Northern California, and we've also had one of our busiest simulation consulting years in a very long time. And that is because when things are serious and there is no room for it might work, people count on Ansys software, and they count on PADT for support, training, and consulting. Anyone can be successful when times are good. It takes real experts with the right win-win long-term attitude to find success for ourselves and our customers when times are tough. And for those of you who do reach out and leverage PADT, thank you. We truly do appreciate your business. All right, let's take a look at 2020 now. We started seeing an impact on the coronavirus on our business in February and March. It was kind of the people canceling meetings or delaying projects or canceling projects. And people who had Ansys with us asking about payment plans and things like that. So that was kind of when we started seeing it. And then many of us moved home in April, and all but essential people were home by May. An important part of that, and we're still in that situation, but some people do work from the office that are non-essential, but pretty much all of our non-essential folks are working from home, and it's worked out quite well. A good place to start looking back on the year besides that aspect is the Ansys stock. It started the year at $259 a share. That was an 80% rise since the beginning of 2019. So over the 12 months of 2019, it went up 80%. Pretty nice. It also got as low as during the pandemic as $200 per share at the end of March. And the peak, all-time peak, not just for the year, but all-time, was $357.93. That's pretty good. It's a nice gain. It's come down a little bit since then, and you can definitely take a look at it. I tend not to pay attention to stock prices at the end of the year because people are selling and doing all sorts of crazy things. We'll definitely take a look at where it ended the year at the beginning in our first podcast in January. But it certainly wasn't the best performing stock out there, but it also wasn't the riskiest, and it certainly performed above average. The S&P 500 has gone up 13% since January 1, and Ansys went up 29.7%, so better than double what the S&P 500 did. So not a bad investment, and points to the financial health and the ability to spend more money on developers. That is really what we care about on the user side of things. So if we look at the news that Ansys talked about, or we talked about over the year, there's been a lot that's been going on, even this week. January started with a flurry of announcements around partnerships with autonomous vehicles. A big push in the Ansys world has been the simulation tools needed to do these, both electrification of vehicles as well as the automation of those vehicles. And they announced some partnerships with FLIR Systems, BlackBerry, all sorts of different people, and that's gone on throughout the year. And when things were still brightness and goodness, they announced the 2020 Hall of Fame competition winners, which is some pretty cool. If you haven't looked at those in a while, go back and take a look on the website. It's pretty cool models that people are doing. And also, I think really important, the fact that they had reached 1 million student version downloads of the new student version of Ansys. So that's a lot of students learning Ansys. And then in March, when the clouds were starting to get thick in the world, Ansys had their first acquisition for the year, Lumerical. It's a simulation tool for silicon devices that make light. So it's basically lasers, diode lasers, and very high power, very high intensity, very difficult to design and package. So simulation plays a big role. And Lumerical is really the leader of modeling the silicon devices like that. It really is a big add to our growing optical simulation offering. So, we've got the Speos products, and we've got the Lumerical products, and we've got the mechanical and the fluids to deal with holding those things and keeping them cool. So, a lot of optical people in the Ansys family now. Probably the biggest news of the summer in the Ansys world was the huge success of our first worldwide online user conference. More than 54,000 people from more than 160 countries registered for the inaugural Simulation World digital event, and at the same time, the 16th annual LS Dyna conference, which was hosted, both were hosted by Ansys, of course. These events featured nearly 300 sessions with 200 speakers delivering 48 hours of continuous cross-industry content, it's a lot of words, across multiple time zones. All sessions are now available online, and you can see them. They'll be there through 2020. My guess is a little bit longer. If you were unable to attend, definitely check them out. If you were able to attend, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. It was a great opportunity, and seeing people. Basically, I don't think people realize that the Ansys folks were speaking 3 different times, often in the same day for different time zones. So they just pulled it off beautifully, and kudos to that team for getting that together at the last minute and making it happen. One of my favorite pieces of news from the year, and I hope to see more about it in the coming year, is that Ansys partnered with an electric racing plane competition. It's called Air Race ePioneer, and I just think that's cool. I can't wait to see how that pans out and how those racing planes do. That's a great way to push the technology of electrification for aerospace, and it's just fun. They also partnered with the University of Texas, Arlington. This is probably, in the long run, one of the bigger partnership announcements, in my opinion. They partnered with the University of Texas, Arlington for hypersonics R&D. So if you're in the aerospace industry, you know that there's just a lot of work, both on the commercial and the military side, in the hypersonic space. And it's a critical area to understand and to really get your head around. And Ansys is making a commitment to that from a coding standpoint, and also from a testing and correlation standpoint. And that's why the partnership with the university. And we'll be seeing, when they do these university partnerships, they announce them and everybody goes away. And then you don't really see anything for a year, maybe 2, maybe 3 sometimes. And then 5 years from now, we'll probably have some amazing hypersonic simulation capabilities that all started with this partnership. There's hypersonic capabilities in Fluent now. Check them out if you haven't already, and that's just going to get better. Another big news, something that's near and dear to PADT, is that the Ansys Startup Program doubled in size over the last 2 years. So we have a lot of customers on the Ansys Startup Program. We sometimes have them on this podcast. We love to work with them and see them grow and succeed using Ansys. It's a great program if you're a startup and haven't looked at it, or if you're thinking about doing a startup, take a look at it. But doubling in size in 2 years is pretty impressive. Then the second acquisition of the year came out. This is more recently, Analytical Graphics, Inc. AGI is what we often call them. It's an aerospace acquisition. So one of the things that sometimes I hear from users is, Ansys, they may be aerospace people, and they're like, Ansys is spending all their time in automotive and electronics and microwave, and then the microwave guys are like, Ansys is spending all their time in automotive. They're spending all their time in everything, and aerospace is a very important part of the customer base and the technology base. Oftentimes, aerospace pushes the other industries to the next level. And so the inclusion of analytical graphics is going to bear a lot of good fruit. So they model what they call mission simulation. So think of the most common use of their tool is satellites on orbit. How over the decades that they're up there, they can model that. and do all sorts of simulations on that from an orbital mechanics standpoint, from a system standpoint, from a communication standpoint, where it's pointing. Now, couple that with tools like Ansys has to design the antennas, to test the antennas, maybe heat transfer, so we know what the loads are. There's just a lot of applications now that we can model how the device, maybe it's a rocket going up into orbit, maybe it's the satellite on orbit. There's all sorts of applications of their tools. Pretty cool stuff. Check it out if you're in that space. And then finally, the news that happened this week, and it's kind of high level news, and I'm not quite sure how it was released, but not necessarily as a press release. Maria Shields, the longtime CFO of Ansys, has handed over the CFO position to a member of the board of directors who's been on the board for a little while. And this is part of her succession plan that she put in place, always looking after Ansys. She's not just going to leave. She's going to make sure that everything's done properly. If you don't know Maria and haven't had a chance to interact with her, she's one of a handful of people who are key to the success of Ansys over the past 25 years. She's been on the leadership team, the senior leadership team, the longest of anybody on that team. She's also, through the decades, been a great supporter of PADT and the Ansys channel. Just a fantastic person to work with. I'm proud to say that she's been a personal friend and a mentor for many, many years. Ansys would not be where it was without some key people. And she's one of those key people that's put it where it is and just been so instrumental to our career at PADT as well as Ansys. So she's not leaving. She's just changing positions. But we do want to take this time to thank her for being such a driver in making Ansys the company that it really is today, the $1 billion company that it is today. And thanks for all the great years. And we look forward to the next phase of working with you. Last bit of news. There were a bunch of awards, so I clumped them all together. Started off with the 2020 Women on Board winning company. Again, Maria was instrumental in this, making sure there's a lot of diversity on their executive team and their board of directors. And so they make up 33% of the Ansys board, which is rare. It's kind of sad, but that's a lot. So congratulations to that. They also won the prestigious Industrial Internet of Things Award. It's the 4th annual Internet of Things Breakthrough Award. And it recognized Ansys's digital twin simulation solution, which we talk a lot about here. And it's a really great program for anybody doing IoT. And the IoT world recognized that. This is kind of a cool one. They won the office in the Bay Area, won the 2020 Bay Area Best Place to Work Award. Was recognized as one of the best places to work in the Bay Area. That's a tough call, right? I mean, this is the land of ping pong tables and bring your puppy to work, right? And gourmet chefs, et cetera, et cetera. And they won because it's not all about the gourmet chefs. It's about the quality of the people and the way they're treated and the environment that they work in. And so the fact that they won that award is a real kudos to the company and the culture there. Next on the awards parade was they were named to Fast Company's list of the 100 best workplaces for innovators. So this is not best place to work. This is a best place to work for people who are innovators. And boy, I can agree with that. This is the second time that Fast Company's done that, and Ansys was on the list of 100 best workplaces for innovators. And in that we interface with those innovators every day, we can agree with that. They also won a Gold Stevie Award for great employers, and they basically won it for the Simulation World virtual conference. The fact that they created this successful, safe place where thought leaders, engineers, and innovators could get together during the pandemic and share their thoughts. So kudos on that. And then the last one of the year, well, there may be another one that we'll talk about next year. They announce it now. Fortune added Ansys to their 2020 Future 50 list. So they basically are recognized as one of the top companies for long-term growth potential, right? So what Fortune is looking at is this a company that's peaking, or is this a company that's got long-term growth? And if you follow Ansys, like most of you probably do because you use it, you know that there's a lot more growth coming, and they just keep adding capability and adding users, and I definitely can see why Fortune picked them as that list of only 50 companies. And like I said, the year's not over yet, so there may be some more news to report. The big news for those of you who use Ansys for PADT is really our continued expansion of our capabilities, adding new products, adding new territories, adding new engineers. So it's been a good year of growth for us here at PADT as well. Adding new customers, of course, is the best part, especially the new and exciting ones where we get to learn new exciting things. So that it's been a challenge, needless to say, but we've had a lot of fun helping our customers deal with it. Being there for them at weird hours when they needed our help, when they were getting set up at home, and making sure everybody was efficient and had the tools they need. Doing training, we don't do a lot of standard training. We do a lot of custom training, and been doing that over the internet, of course, as you would expect, and that's been a good adjustment for us and gone well. So no big changes on the Ansys side for PADT. I think I mentioned in the podcasts earlier, we've added Texas. We've been selling Ansys in Texas for some time, but we've added Stratasys sales there as well. So more PADT Texans, which is great to have on the team. And we continue to see that grow over the year. And we got some announcements in the new year that we will share here on the podcast, and hopefully you guys will enjoy it. And there's a lot that can be said and has been said about 2020. I won't add to it. Just thank everybody for sticking with us and being part of our journey through it. It's not the most eventful year in the Ansys world, but it ranks up there. And I want to thank our listeners for spending the year with us over it. And that's all I got to say for 2020. Thank you. I'm done. I'm done with the year. So conclusion is to just thank you again and again and again. And don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter at www.padtinc.com/opt-in, and subscribe to this podcast if you aren't already on whatever podcasting tool you like. Spread the word, invite your friends, and as always, don't hesitate to reach out. Have a wonderful holiday season and a fantastic, finally, new year. Thank you for joining us for the All Things Ansys podcast, episode 78. As a reminder, this podcast is not affiliated in any way with Ansys Inc., and the opinions expressed are those of the people on the show only and not of their current or former employers. For more information, visit www.padtinc.com/blog, and please share your thoughts and questions through an email to podcast@padtinc.com. See you next time.